Тоже. Раз, два. Слышно, да? Ну, они сейчас... Ну, хорошо. Хорошо, ценок-то. Бастайпа? Good day, or good morning, or good evening, dear participants of the International Land Conference. We welcome you from Al-Farabi Kazakh National University. Okay, subject of the International Online Conference is the global economic crisis, search of ways of an exit, which is held on a communicative platform G-Global, which is created by the initiative of President of Republic of Kazakhstan, Nursultan Abishevich Nazarbayev. The main participant of the communicative platform of G-Global is Al-Farabi Kazakh National University. Academician of National Academy of Science of the Republic of Kazakhstan, member of the World Academy of Arts and Sciences, first vice president of a Eurasian Economic Club of Scientists Association, rector of Al-Farabi Kazakh National University, Mutanov Galinkarim Mutanovich. He is the person of month of G-Global from April 2 to May 31, 2015 year. Actual topic is a global economic crisis. There are different approaches worldwide. Today we will listen to representatives of these countries and their opinions and their relations as experts. Dear participants, you can join in the form of comments or short performances. Now I will give the word to the moderator of today's conference, Jidibek Aknur. Please.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, dear guests and participants. My name is Jidibek Kazakhnur, and I'll be serving as your moderator today. I'm pleased to welcome you to our video conference on topics the global economic crisis, the search for solutions. We have discussed a variety of urgent problems on the G-Global platform during this month, and today we are going to discuss following issues. The first one is the causes of the crisis in 2008, the consequences of the crisis in the post-industrial economy, analysis of the financial instruments of the Federal Reserve System, consequences and prospects of the financial economic crisis. Now, before we moving along to our session, please welcome our participants. It's an honor to me to introduce you to our guests and participants. Konstantin Schamber, Managing Director of the Munich Center for Strategic Intercultural Communication, Munich, Germany. Jan Campbell, a professor of the Higher School of Economics, Prague, Director of Campbell Concept, Germany, and VIP Coach, Czech Republic. Mark Nordhoft, representative of the International Association of SMA Mittelstand, Germany. Zhang Wang Li, professor of Boston University, USA. David Seletti, Dr. PhD, Department of History, Geography and Old Sciences, University of Padua, Italy. Russell Pittman, expert of Economic Analysis Group, Antitrust Division, USA. Pierluigi Montalbano, Professor of La Sapienza University, Italy. Anna Maria Celeste Vios-Jumadla, Revo IP Mentor Intellectual Property Solutions, Makati, Philippines. Tolumbek Almas, PhD, Professor at the Institute of Management, International University of Delta, Canada. Bukis Valery, Deputy Director of the Department of Management of the High School of Economics and Management, Ekaterinburg, Russia. Chernyazova Aygul, North Kazakhstan State University, Head of Sector of Innovative Development and Patent and License Work. Shaiken Dim Mohamed, PhD, Associate Professor of North Kazakhstan State University. Azamat Kermbay, Waseda University, Tokyo, Japan, and the teaching staff of Higher School of Economics and Business. And now let me remind you that the time is restricted and time limit for speakers is 5 minutes. And dear participants, you may ask questions and make a comment after presentation. Now we are going to listen to Professor Schamber, please.
Ladies and gentlemen, can you hear me very well? Well, before I will start with my short session, which probably will take about 5 minutes, I would like to thank 3 persons who make this event possible. First of all, I would like to thank Rector of Kazakh National University, Professor Mutanov, for making this platform working. Secondly, I would like to thank Dean of the High School of Economics and Business, Professor Bayan Yerkimbayeva, for making this platform working as well. And of course, I would like to thank Director of Management and Marketing Department, Professor Kaligash Mukhtarova. Thank you very much for invitation. Well, my issue is about collaboration between business and education, new approaches. Being involved in business for almost 10 years, the same activities in teaching, I made several observations which I would like to share with you, and I would be very glad to hear your critical opinions or critical feedback regarding my observations. Well, talking about business and education, many people don't really understand what exactly could be the connection between these two parts of very important issues. The observations I'm going to tell about are self-made. Of course, would be happy to share this observation with you. Well, if talking about education and innovation, especially in business area, the first observation I have made is that a big portion of innovation is achieved by teams, not necessarily by groups and not by individuals. So many innovations nowadays, which came up from big enterprises or small, medium-sized enterprises, are made by teams. This is somehow exactly the opposite what we do experience at universities. Because at university, many students are asked to achieve individual results, which means everything which is measurable is applied to one individual. Our exams are written by individuals, not by groups, not by teams. Our working experience within the university is the same. We try to give notes on comments on individual based work. This is fine, but the thing is, as long as somebody has graduated from the university and trying to enter the big corporation, he or she is experiencing kind of challenge to work within one team, which means 5 years spent at university, we learned a lot. We have a very clear structure of the issues, but we very often not able to work within one team. This is the challenge number 1. So, secondly, innovations are likely to happen in multidisciplinary teams or groups and not in groups which are thinking and acting in the same way. There's one very famous saying, if everyone is thinking the same way, no one is really thinking. So, in our universities, it doesn't matter what country they belong to, we are very often experiencing that different faculties do not really cooperate with each other. So a student from one faculty may spend several years working together without having the challenge or the possibility to act and to interact with different faculties. And this is exactly what is going on now in many companies. This is my observation, that really interesting products, innovative products, are made by companies which have interdisciplinary teams within the company. So people who act and think differently and therefore do have different backgrounds, ideas, and as a result, interesting innovations. And the last observation, innovations are not possible by top-down management style, but are possible within organizations which has competent people, relevant technology, financial support, recognized needs, and network. So from these 5 factors I just have mentioned, competent people, relevant technology, financial support, recognized needs, and network, only 3 might be found at university, namely competent people, so very well educated students, financial support, which is sometimes amazingly good, and network. The rest, namely relevant technology and recognized needs of the market, is something at university cannot be founded. This is something a company brings with, and this is why university and business have a very natural desire to cooperate. But having observed several universities, or several dozens universities, the thing is that business is somehow not always interested to cooperate with universities. And I think this is a big lack of motivation from the side of businesses, because they do not really understand what exactly universities are producing and how universities are acting. And I think this is exactly what is going to be a big challenge for the next few generations, to make sure that educational sector, which is very often long-term oriented, has a very natural desire to cooperate with businesses, which brings financial support and the understanding of market needs. On the other hand, business is profit-oriented, creating goods and services, but needs people who are smart and innovative. So I think the biggest challenge would be, and I'm very happy to discuss with you this topic by today, how to make possible that the business has access to universities, and universities are accepting this natural desire and do have cooperation needs with business. Thank you very much for presentation time, and I'm looking forward to listen to your opinions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Does anyone have questions? Cooperation between education and business, it's a very interesting topic, and I'd like to ask you about commercialization of research results. We know that there is a considerable difference between natural sciences and the humanities. For example, researchers in natural science can do some experiments, invent innovations, and obtain patents. But what can we commercialize in humanities? Can you give us some successful examples?
Well, there are different types of innovations. I just would like to mention 3 of them. So-called technical innovations, so-called social innovations, and service or product innovations. So talking about technical innovations, the business probably is not so much interested at university, because they have usually quite big databases and they have own laboratories. They can do it their own. And indeed, you're right. If we talk about human or social sciences, at the first sign, you can see that there's no direct connection between business, production, and university. But be reminded, many big successful entrepreneurs in this world are coming from social sciences background or having social sciences background, which means these are smart people who somehow understood what is the issue in all of these corporations, and the issue in all of these corporations is human being. Well, how to deal with human beings, how to establish a management style which will help and support business growth. And I think what we are trying here at KazNU, especially at this faculty, is to understand how to make the social sciences interesting for business in terms of marketing, in terms of human resource management, in terms of innovation development. This is what I believe.
Thank you very much. Does anyone have questions?
May we have a question to this person, please? Well,
Yes.
the theme which you are considering in your report is really interesting, and at the same time it's connected with R&D research, with R&D expenditures percentage of GDP. And that is one of the main problems today in Kazakhstan to enhance the level of this value. And may we know about probably e-links from the internet, your articles, your literature probably, where we can learn this material? Because you just concerned and you just said about the part of this process, about interaction between universities and some enterprises, but there are some other sectors, and we would like to know if you present us your labor, your literature, which you probably published to read, because Kazakhstan and Kazakhstan scientists need to know this experience, and if you give us this material, if you give us these links, it would be very good. Thank you for your interesting report.
Thank you very much. And now let's proceed to our second speaker, Dr. David Saletti from Padua University, Italy. Please, doctor. Excuse me, can you hear us? Probably we have some technical difficulties.
Don't you hear me?
Yes, we hear. Please.
Here? Yes, do you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, okay. So, thank you very much for having invited me here. I will speak about crisis, origins and consequences in post-industrial economy with a view to the case of northeastern Italy. So the point is to see what have been consequences of the protracted economic slowdown and what have been considered for decades a milestone of successful economic and social organization in northeastern Italy. I will develop this point exploiting basically two sources. The first one is a research project that I have carried out at the University of Padua between 2008 and 2013 under the name the Italian Northeastern Economy after the crisis. So we had a positive view at the time. And I also refer to my article Between Crisis and Development, published in 2011, that you can find on my web page. So, why can we understand something about the origins and development of a crisis looking closer at the regional economy? Because basically, because of two reasons. So first of all, because this regional economy, so northeastern Italy, it's highly differentiated in terms of sectors and firms. So we have agriculture, industry, quite developed services, small, medium firms, but also large groups, state and private-owned firms. And secondly, because the region is particularly export-oriented, and therefore it reflects not only domestic, but also international trends. So if we look at figures, we can see that the regional economy followed broadly during the crisis national trends. It lost between 2007 and 2014 3.3 points of gross regional domestic product, which means more or less 15 billion euros, which reflects, if you see the similar figures for Italy, broadly the Italian trend. We have therefore quite a negative picture, and this is a film that seems to go towards a bad end, even if the most recent figures are a little bit better. This film shows an endless crisis without any foreseeable positive, really positive issue. However, if we come closer to the regional economy, we see something very different. We will see that the crisis didn't affect all the sectors in the same way. Quite the contrary, we have sectors that have not been affected, all others that have experienced a real boom. The crisis affected, first of all, the traditional sectors, so medium quality, medium price goods and services, from agriculture to medical services to tourism. So, I mean, regardless the sectors. We had minus 27% of production value between 2007 and 14, which is quite a big drop. The crisis wiped out low quality, low-priced local productions, minus 43% in the same time. But on the other hand, the luxury sector experienced a real boom, with an overall growth of 43% between 2007 and 2014, which is very, very big, and 37% if we take into account 2014. So, of course, what is, this might be a question, luxury sector. So for statistical reasons, in our researches, we have divided the overall production of the most representative regional sectors in 10 classes of prices, and I've taken the two highest. It's a very broad, but it allowed us to make the researches. However, of course, we agree that the definition of luxury sector is much more complicated. So we have a lot of literature about it, and there is debate about it, and so on, and it entangles both quality parameters, so quality, aesthetic, and of course price, and consumers parameters, exclusivity, culture, prestige, fashion, and so on. But for statistical reason, we had to adopt this broad approach. To give some examples of luxury sectors that emerged as winners during the crisis, we can see high-quality tourism. First of all, luxury hotels, or so-called hôtel de charme, exclusive residences, that they are often connected with medical or services as baths, spas, and so on. Luxury agribusiness, from the production of wines to ham, to all sorts of high-cost, high-quality food, but also production of high-quality, sophisticated industrial goods, all in the mechanical and electronic sectors. These trends, so this polarization of the regional economy, has highly transformed not only the regional production structure, but also the environment and the use of the territory itself. So, for example, large industrial areas have been partially or totally dismissed. So, one of the clearest examples is the chemical conglomerates of Porto Marghera near Venice, or even the second biggest industrial area of the regions, the ones of Padova, has been partially transformed into a recreational commercial area. So, coming to the conclusion, so what are the origins and consequences of this crisis? So the trends that are pointed out can be seen as evidences of a broad structural transformation, so which is not a transitional cyclical crisis of the world economy and society, and namely of the higher and higher concentration of wealth and therefore of potentiality of consumption that marked the last 20-25 years of our history. So if you look, I will not go deeper in it, but if you look at the Gini indexes of most European, even American countries, you will see it quite clearly. In other terms, so the overall fall of the demands of medium quality products and services produced within a wide, complex, and open economy, so world economy, affected a regional economy, northeastern Italy, and produced a growth of its luxury production and a polarization in investment to luxury productions, and a fall of medium and low quality productions, which mirrored, of course, regional, the Italian, and the worldwide wealth distribution. Of course, we can spot even other forces that affected these trends, so international concurrence, monetary issues, for example, the euro, but I will not, because we don't have time, go deeper into it. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Dear guests, do you have questions for Dr. Saletti, or would you like to make a comment on this topic? Please. While they're formulating their questions, I'd like to ask you about something. We are really interested in the situation in Italy, and I always read that the young people in Italy complain that it's very difficult to find a job. And if I'm not mistaken, the unemployment rate among young people reached a peak after the crisis, and it's nearly about 40%. It's almost half, and it's very huge numbers. And could you tell us what are the reasons of this situation and how government deal with it?
Well, the reason of the situation, if we talk about Italy, but even if we talk about northeastern Italy, I think it's quite the same, that the sectors that most suffered of the crisis are labor-intensive sectors, and therefore we have a drop of labor offer. At the same time, the labor demand grows because we have more and more people coming to the market, Italian and non-Italian, so we have even immigration trends that can influence it. I know that the government voted a package for sustaining growth, economic growth. But we will see if it works or not. What we see is the package voted by the European central banks, different monetary policy, starts working, but we have to wait until at least the end of the second trimester of this year to see the results of it. Meanwhile, as far as I know, we don't have any very positive trends for what concerns occupation. Then there is a third, and I finish with it. There is a third reason, is that unemployment affects not all young people, but most young people that do not have higher education, or people that have a higher education in humanities. If you look at other figures, you will see quite different pictures. That's
okay. Thank you very much. Any questions or comments? All right. Let's proceed to our third speaker, Russell Pittman. Okay, we are trying to establish a connection with...
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Okay. Yes. Please, I'll give a word to Russell Pittman.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity to be here as part of this. As the moderator mentioned, I do work for the U.S. government, so let me begin with the observation that the views expressed here are my own and do not necessarily reflect the views of the U.S. government. I also want to emphasize that this is a very difficult topic, and I certainly don't claim to be a great expert at it. So I will give you my own views and what I believe to be the important issues, recognizing their limitations. So, where did the global crisis come from, and where do we go from here? It seems to me that the roots of the crisis go back to two developments that reached their apex in the 1990s, which were the broad deregulation of banking behavior. In the U.S., this took the form of the repeal of the Glass-Steagall Act, which had been in place since the 30s, and the development and rapid spread of more complex financial instruments. The repeal of Glass-Steagall was a product of a very long period without serious bank crises, as well as the spread of the Washington Consensus, which was very friendly to market behavior and arguably somewhat hostile to government regulation. And so restrictions on the freedom of commercial banks to get involved in other markets was considered to be counterproductive and kind of antiquated and old-fashioned and not recognizing the modern capabilities. And in addition, I think bankers and politicians and economists and lawyers maybe were lulled by this by a long period of prosperity and by a long period of a lack of crisis into a sense of great self-confidence. We had all this data now, we had the internet, we had all these powerful computers. If something happened, we could take care of ourselves. And the bankers would be the first to know about it, and they would act in their own best interest and correct any problems swiftly. At the same time, as we all know, the financial markets were becoming much more complicated. They were becoming very complex instruments like derivatives and securitization of different products that were sold, and they were treated as if they were so diverse and as if they were useful devices for spreading risk, but without really verification of that. The result was that when some of the bubbles began to burst, and certainly one of those was the real estate bubble in the U.S., in certain parts of the U.S., the prices of these assets began to collapse, and there was sort of a classic bank run. Everyone who owned these securities, everyone who owned these derivatives, everyone who had borrowed between big banks wanted to get out of it, wanted to sell their assets. Nobody wanted to buy. The prices collapsed. There were the old-fashioned margin calls where people said, "Where's the money you borrowed to buy these securities?" It wasn't there, and suddenly we had bankruptcies of very large institutions. Well, where do we go from here now? We certainly have some recovery, but it has been somewhat disappointing. It's been irregular. Many sectors more than others. David talked about this in Northeast Italy. The luxury goods sectors are doing pretty well in many places. Other sectors not so good. It seems to me that on a global basis, what we need are two things. First of all, we need more fiscal stimulus. We need governments that are willing to borrow money at very low interest rates, which we have now, and put the money to very productive uses, both as long-term investments and as short-term stimulus under, this is a classic Keynesian situation where the private sector is not investing, interest rates are low, money's available, and yet it's not being spent. We need the governments to spend it. We need the governments to build infrastructure and hire teachers and put more people to work and invest in the future. And then I think in the longer term we need to increase financial regulation, both in our national governments and globally. We need to try to make sure that these very complex financial institutions and these very complex financial instruments cannot bring the economy down with them anymore. In a sense, what we need to do is make sure we don't have the situation that I think we had, which is where the benefits of innovation and risk taking were privatized, but the costs were socialized. We had to take social measures to bail out the banks and the financial institutions to make sure they didn't take us all down even further with them. So we need to have stronger regulations. I think Basel III is a good start in terms of forcing banks to have greater capital, that they put their own money at risk in addition to everybody else's. And I think that if we can have this greater government stimulus and stronger financial regulations, which we're trying to do in the U.S. with the Dodd-Frank legislation, although the finance industries are fighting back fiercely at that, then I think we can be at least somewhat optimistic going forward. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Our participants, dear guests, please formulate your questions to Dr. Pittman. And now we have an... Yes, please.
Excuse me, my name is Azamat. Can I ask one question?
Yes, please.
Okay. Our business in Kazakhstan, especially financial market, has a very high cost, but they also has a very high profit margin. And this is the reason why today business are not interested in science. And I have a question: how in the USA and Europe, how your government solve this problem? I mean, how your government make interesting science for business and so on? Thank you.
Well, in the U.S., I mean, this is a constant problem, and I think there are many people who believe that governments in the U.S. Have not been as encouraging to science and especially basic research as they used to be and as they should be. Tax dollars are scarce, and it's investments like basic research and development tend to be very long-term investments. If there are many failures, there are many dead ends, and the benefits maybe are way down the road. And governments have trouble being that patient, and so there's always a temptation on the part of the legislature and the rest of the government to spend money that has more immediate short-term benefits. And so I think it is a problem. Maybe David can speak to it in Europe, but I think certainly in the U.S. we have this problem that there's always a struggle to get more money for basic research and development. Obviously, businesses spend money on it too, but they also have trouble being patient enough, and their stockholders have trouble being patient enough for projects with really long-term payoffs. So I think you have identified a very valid issue, made worse by the economic crisis.
Thank you very much. Any questions? Please.
Hello, dear guests and participants. My name is Maya. I'm a master degree student at Kazan University. I have one question for you. Which are consequences of global economic crisis, and how you can explain the positive and negative effects of influence on the country of country, and how you, could you name the principal reasons of origin of crisis? Thank you.
Well, as I said, I think it's a very complex issue, and I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that in the Western capitals, in New York and Washington and London and Brussels, that in the 90s and the 2000s, the governments decided that the financial sectors did not need as close regulation as they had thought. We had gone a long time without a depression or a serious recession, and the governments in my country and in Europe and in London and Tokyo, I think bought into the Washington Consensus and bought into the idea that bankers and investment bankers and financial analysts were really smart enough and had good enough information that they on their own could prevent us from falling into a classic sort of bank run style crisis. And it turned out not to be the case. And I think we continue to pay the price for that. And as I said, I think we're going to have to, in the future, I think we're going to have to try to get a better handle on government regulation of finance, or the rest of us are all going to continue to pay the price when the finance guys go crazy with their speculations and take too many risks.
Thank you. We established a connection with Professor Zhang Wangli. Okay, one more question.
Hello, thank you for your report. I have a question. Can you please give the example of the financial instruments used by US government that helps to regulate the economic situation? Thank you.
The financial instruments used by the U.S. government. Well, I think, I think in terms of regulating the general economic situation, you're just referring to the classic tools of fiscal and monetary policy, including government spending, government transfers, taxation, and then the monetary policy in terms of the Federal Reserve's control of the economy and manipulation of the money supply and the interest rates. More specifically, of course, we have government regulatory policies designed to help make sure that the market works in the public interest way. And so I work for an anti-monopoly agency. We have the Federal Reserve Board and other health and safety regulators. So more generally, there are these regulators who try to make sure that the economy works better for everyone. But the broader tools are the main general ones we've had since for a very long time in terms of fiscal and monetary policy, and economists are always trying to figure out how to get those right, and they work under political constraints, of course. President Obama would like to have had a stronger fiscal stimulus than the legislature was willing to provide. So the tools are very imperfect, but we do the best we can. I don't know, did that answer your question?
Okay, thank you very much. Let me remind you that our time is restricted. I'd like to ask Dr. Lee. Dr. Lee, can you hear us? Professor Zhang Wang Lee? Can you turn on? We don't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Oh, yes, it's okay. Can you also comment on the topic of global economic crisis and its solutions?
Oh, okay, thank you. This is just a courtesy questions to the recent speakers. Okay, he suggested to prevent financial crisis, or at least to reduce risks, the government should escalate regulations against the financial institutions. Yeah, it is possible. But what is the possible response of a private sector if government escalate regulations against the financial institutions and the private sector? Then who is going to facilitate or promote market mechanisms?
Thank you very much. And now let's proceed to our next speaker.
No, excuse me. This is just a question to the Russell. Excuse me, sir. I didn't get your last surname, so I should call the Russell.
Dr. Russell, can you hear us? It's a question for you.
Yes, thank you. Russell Pittman is. I understood exactly the question, but I think you identify an important issue. I mean, we have the issue of can the private sector regulate itself? I think financial crisis suggested not role for regulation, but clearly also.
Excuse me, Dr. Pittman, we have some technical difficulties. We don't hear.
Do you believe in the private sector is the source of economic jobs. And there's a real question at some point.
Excuse me, Dr. Pittman. Can we try later?
Not the profit, the risks, and earn the profit and create jobs wanted. Right, that we.
Okay, we have some difficulties, and now let me give a word to our next speaker, Dr. Shaykinde Mohammed, Associate Professor of North Kazakhstan State University. Please, can you hear us?
Yeah, we can hear you. Thank you very much for the words which you gave us to the North Kazakhstan State University, named after Manash Kozbayev. In comparison with the previous reporters who explained the practical aspects with the problem of how to overwhelm the crisis, I would like to present more theoretical material and to consider the problem which is connected with the youth potential, which is one of the major factors of the socio-economic development of our country. And we are sure that this is the population, one of the more of the important populations category, which will be the engine overwhelming the modern crisis under modern conditions. So one of the most important problems in the Republic of Kazakhstan, requiring, in our opinion, permanent attention in modern conditions, is the improvement of population's quality of life. And it's necessary to study and consider the possibilities of people and qualitative changes of their potentials, in our opinion, demographic, labor, social, economic, in accordance with the requirements of modern social development. And today, the basic document in this point, defining further development of our country, is the strategy Kazakhstan 2050, which was initiated by our president, Nursultan Nazarbayev. The main goals of this strategy are prosperity, security, and welfare improvement of all people of Kazakhstan. So in this document, it is underlined that namely people and population are a major factor which forms and develops new Kazakhstan in modern world. Agreeing with these statements, we would like to add that the quality of life depends on many circumstances, conditions, and things. Mainly, it depends on the development of different spheres where the social life functions. All of them exist in interrelation, not separately. The modern Kazakhstan is perceived by the international community as a state with the market economy. And in conditions of the globalization and international competition, the solution of problems connected with the improvement of the quality of life are the important ones. Today's development of Kazakhstan is based on the modern and advanced achievements, national particularities, experience of the planned Soviet economy, and foreign front lines and technologies. We see that Kazakhstan participates in different international markets. New managerial economic models are created and perfected. They are based on a variety of different kinds of activities. And the major moving force which has to form and develop those processes is the people, and mainly young generations and youth. And thanks to policy of our president, Nursultan Nazarbayev, we may say that today in Kazakhstan, all conditions to study and improve the qualification level, to work and run the business are created and legislatively fixed. The young people have a lot of opportunities to realize all positive things for the benefit of the family and our country. So the solution of youth major problems in modern conditions, I mean education, unemployment, job, labor adaptation, housing acquisition, and etc., is a very important state task. There is an enhancement of attention to the youth in Kazakhstan because it is a very important resource of our country. And the president of Kazakhstan pays great attention to the youth and its problems. In his annual addresses, they care about youth, understanding of its problems, and mode of life are considered. And our president constantly and tirelessly tries to help us, young modern generation, to find our place in this life, in living conditions, at labor orientation and market, in all spheres where the youth needs help and maintenance. And we can honestly say that there is a unique educational center in Kazakhstan where many initiatives are realized and embodied. Everybody knows about Nazarbayev University, which is the leader amongst Kazakhstan universities. And it successfully functions on the base of the international standards rendering educational services. For all young people, it is a great honor to be a student of this university. And Mr. President says, an innovative and intelligent cluster must be formed around Nazarbayev University, promoting the transfer and development of new technologies. By creating high-tech enterprises in Astana, we will extend this experience to other scientific and educational centers in Kazakhstan. We have a legislative base, and it aims to become a model for all universities in Kazakhstan. 20 intellectual schools founded on my instructions throughout the country will become the main base for training gifted children for the best universities, Nursultan Nazarbayev said. At the same time, he considers and talks about the necessity of young entrepreneurship maintenance, especially for the industrial and technological points. He says that it's important thing to encourage such initiatives and ideas, which are the engines of the business environment's development. We will convert the whole Kazakhstan into a giant construction site and create tens of thousands of jobs. The construction industry, metallurgy, and manufacturing industry will be developing around housing and large enterprises construction. Numerous opportunities are being created for aspiring young business people. They should not miss this chance. And I instruct the government to make amendments to the program that would reflect additional measures to support aspiring young business people in introducing innovations to the market.
Excuse me, let me remind you that our time is restricted.
Okay.
So our guest participants, if you have any questions, please feel free to ask. Questions, please.
Dear ladies and gentlemen, hello. My name is Sayatova Malika. I'm a master degree student, and I have a question for you. I have a question for you. How effective your suggestions for the prevention of economic crisis in the practice?
Is it a question for me?
Yes.
Okay. For example, well, I would like to answer this question using the following information. Quite recently, right here in Petropavlovsk, this is the regional center of the North Kazakhstan Oblast. So we had the forum, Kızıljar Invest, and in this forum, in participation of different entrepreneurs as well as administration office, there were formulated different incentives and different ideas of how to develop youth business, the youth business structure, as well as small and medium business. And you know, many our youth, many our young people, students and undergraduates who graduated from the university, from the postgraduate schools, they really found the job even in such conditions which we have right now, in difficult conditions. And that means that the...
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Do you have any questions to our other guests and participants? Our time is limited, so
hello, dear guests and participants. My name is Maya. I am master degree student, and I have one question for you. My question is to Din Muhammad Nurlanovich. What do you think? Sorry. Sorry. Sorry.
do you have any question? While you're formulating your question,
Sorry, my question is to Dr. Schamber. First, okay, can you name the large business companies in Kazakhstan, and what are the effects and advantages of Kazakhstan business as compared to foreign? Thank you.
Thank you very much for the question. Well, I think Kazakhstan is a very huge country, having only 16 million populations, and I think 5 times bigger than Germany. Well, there are many opportunities here in this country because of very huge market. At the same time, there are many European companies having successful businesses here in Kazakhstan, having quite good financial privileges to establish a business. Observing from my personal overview, having established quite good connection with universities here in this country, I think the main advantage of Kazakhstan being international successful business model is there are quite huge numbers of students who would like to grow, who would like to be entrepreneurs inside and outside of the country. Secondly, the geographical position of Kazakhstan is quite likely. It's between Europe, Russia, China, and Asia, which gives Kazakhstan the possibility to be not only transition country, but also a country which can bring all these countries together. And the last thing is, well, Kazakhstan is true, very rich on natural resources, but I think the recent activities established by the government, although not always very effective, but still very way-giving to new entrepreneurs who would like to invest in this region, or very much supported by the government, which makes the hope that one day, in few years, the real big production companies might be interested in this area. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your reply. And we established the connection with our guests, Anna Maria Celeste Vios Jumadla from Makati, Philippines, and Almas Tolmbek from Canada, University of Delta. Unfortunately, our time is restricted, and if you have any comments on this topic about global economic crisis, please. Do you have any comments? Anna Maria, please, if you have some ideas, comments.
Hi, hello. Yeah, we were in another site. I was talking with Almas for almost an hour already, waiting for the link, and we discovered we are in the wrong one. So we have been talking about our ideas already for an hour. But anyway, my main points, I haven't seen or heard what you have been talking for the last few minutes. So I was just thinking for Kazakhstan. I guess I'm talking to economists, so you would understand that in terms of economic development, there's a major role for innovation. That's based on the theory of Schumpeter. So my field is actually intellectual property, technology management, and innovation management, and I'm integrating intellectual property into innovation management. And as I have been discussing with Almas, I was saying that I was looking into the Global Innovation Index of Kazakhstan, and for the moment, one of the weakness of Kazakhstan is the linkages from university to the industry, meaning there is a gap between the researchers, because I understand there is a big percentage in GDP for research in the universities in Kazakhstan, and unlike in the Philippines. But then there's a gap between the results of the research into something that is commercially viable. So you have a research that's probably geared towards publication and just for information of the public. So let's say, for example, there are new molecules probably produced, but they all remain into paper, and this do not become products that are commercially viable and are able to reach the public. And because I see in the Global Innovation Index that they're actually, well, it's what's written there is NA, not applicable, meaning the resident patent filing in Kazakhstan is not applicable. I am not so sure at this point, because I haven't really looked into the number of patent filings coming from Kazakhstan. So, but what I'm trying to say is that there is indeed a gap between the research that can produce products that are significant to the public, and that these products that are significant will be the venue for creation of more companies, let's say startup companies, and the startup companies, which you would know, will be a venue for the creation of more jobs, and then you have the cycle for economic development. So that's just one of my suggestions at the moment for this issue.
Thank you very much. And we also have in connection with Ekaterinburg, Russia, Professor Burkis Valery. Can we hear your comments on this topic? Professor Burkis Valery, can you hear us? You can also make a comment on Russian. Вы можете сказать на русском. Вы слышите нас? Валерий Вячеславович, вы слышите нас? Валерий Вячеславович, если вы нас слышите, можете сделать комментарий, задать вопрос. Вы слышите нас? Валерий Вячеславович, включите микрофон, пожалуйста. Можно написать мне?
Hello everyone. I'm glad to see you, and I'm very glad to join of your conference. I hope you hear me.
Yes, we hear you. Please continue. Okay, thank you for participation. I think we are going to finish and summarize our today's conference. I would like to thank our foreign participants for their speeches and performance. And now let me give the last word to the head of Department of Management and Marketing, Professor Mukhtarova Kharla Saparovna.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for all participants of our international online conference from these universities. We wish success in your professional life. Thank you very much. Bye bye. See you later. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Especially thank for our dear professor from Boston University.
In Boston now it's 6 a.m. in the morning.
We are going to participate in your international conference later, okay, in summer.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thank you for all participants. Все?